Good afternoon, everyone. David Dubine here. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel, bringing you back to an article a month ago, Global Famine, End of the Year. Jumping further back, 1788, wheat harvest failures, Summer of Discontent, 1789. That means next year. Sri Lanka giving public workers day off to grow food. KFC swapping to cabbage. What happened to the lettuce? None. You're going to grow your own food? This is what's going to go short next year. So when you see the stories about insect proteins, remember the children still have the innocence, sidewalk drawing, and we as a society are going to need to hold on. It's going to happen this fast. It's in motion, and we all need to get ready. It's literally going to be in the blink of an eye. The CEO of Wells Fargo warns the worst is yet to come for Americans. Deutsche Bank is forecasting a major recession among similarities to the 1970s era stagflation and real wealth destruction. If the playbook follows the 1970s, gold and silver are the standout cheap asset from this starting point. Bloomberg Intelligence forecast $2,500 gold by the year's end. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo see gold hitting record highs in 2022. Former Gold Corp chairman Ian Telfer warns peak gold has been reached regarding maximum output, and for that reason raised his forecast to $2,500 an ounce. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the No Fee for Life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 1-800-356-4470 for a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated IRA gold dealer from 2016 to present, click on that link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And with all the crypto madness going on, let's talk about scam coins for a second. $27 trillion in circulation, unlimited supply cap, only one node, 25% of all the supply has been minted, and we'll change that to the last 8 months, and 1% of the holders of this scam coin own 30% of the value. That's the US dollar. Maybe this cartoon, that's all folks, will put it in perspective. The collapse has begun, the transition is now. So maybe you want to think about converting your trampoline into a chicken coop. You're going to need eggs and protein as we move through this food insecure time. Now I'm going to drop you back a mere month, which seems like years now ago. Top aides in Russia predicting global famine because of what's happening with the non-planting of wheat and the non-production and shipping of oils and grains out of the Black Sea region. Quote, a global famine that will occur closer to autumn by the end of this year around the world because of the interference of grain deliveries, pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers coming out of Russia. This dude's crystal ball seems to be crystal clear. Timeline intact. This is before what we're seeing in these empty stores again and again. It's going to continue. But distant early warning for this one right here. These implements that you'll need to grow food coming up in the spring of next year after the entire planet gets spooked and people don't have enough to eat, there'll be zero on this shelf. You might want to go get something now to be able to at least tend to your own gardens moving forward. And here's a shocker for me. Sri Lanka gives public workers an extra day off to grow food. So at least for the next 3 months, because of fuel shortages, commuting difficulties, massive food inflation, as well as complete unavailability and rationing, they're moving to let people grow their own food. Now, if you don't see all the signs lining up right now, I'm hoping that this video will do for you or to show some of your family members really what's happening. All these things happening in conjunction right now, it's not a coincidence. It's a planned collapse. And we're starting to see the all-time highest wipeout in valuations across the crypto space as well as going into the S&P 500. This is the beginning of the storm that's here to reset everything. So when the Great Reset was talked about, this is the beginning point. When countries are starting to send their people home to grow food, that should be a huge wake-up call. It might not happen in America at this moment, but how many other 100 countries that rely on imports that are very similar to Sri Lanka, that don't have an enormous amount of natural resources, that rely on US dollars as their reserve to be able to purchase assets globally and have them imported to the country? They don't produce that much of their own fertilizer. These smaller nations that are relying on so many other nations, it's going to be a rinse and repeat. So at what point and what number of country will it be that sends their people home to grow food and calls days off from work to save fuel does it take before family members or the community or countries at large wake up and say we have a huge problem here? It's not going to alleviate itself. The planting progress, the crop reports are dismal already. It's going to take down North American production, Asian production, and European production declining, in addition to what's not going to be exported out of all these nations we've seen in the last 2 months. It is the perfect storm, truly, for humanity to be put in a state of fear that has not been experienced, and that vibration going out into the connected ether, for a better term, is a once in a 2,000-year event of vibratory pattern change. Imagine what that will attract like locusts. And speaking of things that feed, here we go. KFC swapping lettuce for cabbage. Lettuce is too expensive. We're coming into lettuce shortages. In yesterday's video, the $11.99 Australian one head of iceberg lettuce. Companies are going to cut costs. They're moving to cabbage. So again, another check the box of, wow, that's strange. Maybe it's the problem with the food supply. But after yesterday's video, I did reference Walmart losing many of their freezers twice, where they lost most of the food stuff stocked in there. It was ice creams and those kind of frozen foods because they couldn't move it back to the main cooler fast enough. And look at these comments that came in after presenting that video. It's happening again and again in multiple places from multiple states. Interesting that is the ploy now to explain away the food shortages. Oh, the freezers are broken. Now that is a great excuse. I accept that wholeheartedly. Oh, the freezers are broken. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be no ice cream, no frozen foods. Well, it makes sense. Oh, they lost it. He couldn't get it back. I accept that as an answer. I wouldn't even question that. And I didn't. And I'd still am just at the borderline, should I? But here, Rob, at the bottom, my favorite grocery store advised me yesterday there'll be no fresh produce in their store in the winter. And propane companies in Eastern Ontario are now saying that they cannot guarantee deliveries for home heating this coming fall and winter. That is the downfall of the society. If you can't keep your homes warm, then what? So if we're going to repeat chapters of history, let's take a page, literally page 29, out of the crisis of 1789 in France. The monarchical experiment. I want to read this to you. It is so succinct and overlapping of what is happening today. I do believe we are at this point of 1788 right now. So underlined in red and circled, the wheat crop was damaged and incredibly poor. 1788. We're experiencing the same thing now. Global wheat shortages, terrible planting conditions, fertilizer debacle that's going to lower yields. And it was such an indispensable part of French culture and the food of the people, the staff of life, that once the word came in that they were unable to get everything through the winter and in the spring of 1788 and the spring of 1789, by the summer of 1789, massive shortages everywhere. And what happened? Well, the prices ran up to be unaffordable for all. Government response, last paragraph, there arrived some 18 to 20,000 men, soldiers, to quell the unrest in Paris. What was that? Bastille. You ever heard of the Bastille Day? This was the beginning of it. So I believe that this is our 1788, and next summer will be our summer of 1789. Now, the only difference is wheat was such the integral part of the society that caused the tipping point. So what is it our tipping point today? Will it be gasoline or will it be food? Not particularly wheat, but food in general. Because if you're looking at one thing that weaves our society together, it's pretty much the fuel. I think that it might be the fuel this time versus the wheat of the French 1789 experiment. So with all good deflections, you're going to look for more and more of these insect protein articles coming in. Welsh schools feeding primary students insects to determine their appetite for alternative protein, the likes, the dislikes, the acceptability of that. So, starting at that early age, it's just normalizing it. Now look at the insect bar over there, better bar, the insect proteins, and then schools in the UK are now going to use locust and mealworms to make the UK greener. I am waiting for the Queen and the royal family to dine first on this, and then the rest of us should follow. Not the other way around. Don't give it to primary school kids first and make them eat it. Royal family first. Because the storm is upon us and we're right about there. It is hitting in a blink of an eye. We lived these chapters in history before. And we know that the youth still contain the imagination to bring us through to the next world. This is a nice sidewalk painting. Still gives you some hope and a glimmer of hope that something can be reborn out of this chaos and this destruction that is happening right now and about to amplify. So my friends, we're going to have to hang on through this transition from one world to another. At what point do you let go and drop one of the worlds? So I think through the next 6 to 12 months of what's going to happen to our planet was already summarized here via the Verve. You got to tie yourself to the mast, my friend, and the storm will end, because that's where we're heading. We're going to have to ride this hurricane out. And I do believe the energetic changes are on humanity's side. There might be a lot of darkness swirling, but light always penetrates darkness. And if you like this kind of content, please jump over to Telegram at Adapt2030. Join me over there. Putting the call to action out here. I want to grow this so I can share different ways to prepare foods, store foods, grow foods, and then you can have a community to be able to talk to each other as well on the Adapt 2030 group and channel, both. t.me/Adapt2030. And also storable foods. We're going to need something like this regardless of where you purchase it. You need to get storable foods. This is 25-year shelf life, 3-month emergency food supply, ready, packed, and order. It comes to your house, or you can go to the store, spend the time to find the different proteins, carbohydrates that you need, and sugars and oils to get yourself ready for these changes. Either way, you're going to need to get ready. But that link's in the description box. And please remember, every time you do purchase something from My Patriot Supply, it helps the Adapt 2030 channel stay on air, bringing you more research and information just like this. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.